Pull it tighter, Sharon. Tighter. Tasha, I cannot breathe. I am serious. I cannot breathe. That is how you know it is working. If you are comfortable, you have not done it well. No, no, Tasha. I am removing this thing. And you should remove yours too. Sharon. Look at yourself. You have not eaten since yesterday. You fainted in the lecture hall on Tuesday and told me it was the heat. It was not the heat, Tasha. There was air conditioning in that hall. Beauty is not free. If you want the body, you must be willing to suffer for it. That is the difference between me and every other girl on this campus.
Those were the last words she spoke that day. What if I tell you that the most dangerous lie in this world is not the one a person tells the world? It is the one they wake up and tell themselves in the mirror every morning. Watch carefully, because this story will teach you what happens when a person decides they would rather die looking perfect than live being known. Let me tell you the story of Tasha and Sharon. There was a girl called Natasha, but nobody called her that. At Crestwood University, she was simply Tasha. Tasha was 21, in her third year studying mass communication, and she was the kind of person a room notices. Not because she shouted. Tasha never shouted. She had learned what most people never learn, which is that the quietest person in a room can own it if she is the most certain. And Tasha was certain about everything. About her family, who she said owned a construction company in Abuja, about her holidays, which she said she spent in Dubai, about the gold chain on her neck, which she said came from an uncle in oil and gas. Every single one of those things was a lie. Not a small lie. Tasha had built an entire second life brick by brick, and she had been living inside it so long that some mornings even she forgot which side of the wall she was standing on. The truth was this. Tasha came from a 2-room compound in a town 3 hours from campus. Her father repaired generators. Her mother sold akara at the junction from 4 in the morning until the beans finished. There were 5 children and Tasha was the second. And when Tasha was 14, something happened that she never told anybody. The school had a sports day. Her mother came straight from the junction because she did not want to miss it, still in her work wrapper, still smelling of hot oil. And she stood at the fence waving with both hands, so proud, so happy. And a girl in Tasha's class turned to her friends and said something small, something that took 2 seconds to say. The whole group laughed. Tasha did not go to her mother that day. She walked the other way and watched her mother search that crowd for a daughter who was hiding from her. And somewhere between 14 and 21, a whisper took root in her chest that said, if being poor is what made them laugh, then I will never be poor again, not in their eyes, not for one single day. So she built the lie, and the lie worked. Sharon was different. Sharon came from an average family in Enugu. Her father taught at a secondary school. Her mother ran a provision shop. And there was never plenty, but there was always enough. Yet Sharon had her own quiet wound, and hers lived in her body. She had grown up hearing the jokes, the nicknames, the aunties who greeted her by grabbing her arm and shaking their heads. She had learned to enter rooms sideways, to sit at the back, to laugh first at herself so nobody would get the chance. So when Tasha, the Tasha, walked up to her in the faculty corridor in first year and said, "You are Sharon, right? I like your bag," Sharon's heart nearly stopped. Nobody like Tasha had ever chosen her before. Their friendship grew fast, the way friendships do when one person is starving for it. They shared notes, shared plates, shared secrets. Or at least Sharon shared secrets and Tasha shared a very well-written script. By second year, they had rented a small flat off campus together. And here's what makes this story painful. Sharon loved that girl. Not the image, not the story about Dubai. She loved that Tasha would eat her leftovers so Sharon would not feel bad about wasting food. She never once suspected there was anything to suspect. If you have ever had a friend you looked up to so much that you started copying the way they walk, type "I can relate" in the comments. And if you're new here, tap subscribe and turn on the notification bell because we're close to a milestone and I want you here for the ending of this one. It started with a compliment. "Sharon, your waist is actually small. You just do not know how to bring it out." One sentence. And Sharon, who had spent 11 years being told what was wrong with her body, heard somebody finally say what was right with it, and she would have followed Tasha into fire. Tasha showed her the things she kept in the bottom drawer, the whole quiet industry that exists because millions of girls have been taught that the shape they were born in is a first draft. She assumed they were normal. Everybody's cousin had one, everybody's favorite influencer was selling one. So she started, and for about 2 weeks it was fun. They took photos, they laughed. Then Sharon started noticing things. She noticed that Tasha wore it to sleep. She noticed that Tasha barely ate and called it discipline. She noticed that Sharon had started sitting down very carefully, like a woman twice her age, and that sometimes at night, through the thin wall between their rooms, Sharon could hear her breathing in a way that did not sound like sleeping. "Tasha, are you okay?" "I am fine." "You don't sound fine." A pause, a soft laugh through the wall. "Go and sleep, Sharon." You have to understand why Tasha could not stop. Because if you do not understand this part, you will judge her. And judgment is cheap. The body was not vanity. The body was infrastructure. It was why the boutique in town gave her free outfits to post. It was why she had been shortlisted for Face of Crestwood, a pageant with a cash prize big enough to send money home for a year. It was why people covered her plate without her ever having to ask, which meant nobody ever knew she could not have paid. Her whole life was standing on that image. Take it away, and what is left? A girl from a 2-room compound whose mother fries akara at a junction. And that girl, she had learnt at 14, gets laughed at. So when the boutique owner sent a message that said, "We are choosing our ambassador for the year. It is between you and one other girl. Come for the fitting on Saturday," Tasha read it about 9 times. And then she opened the bottom drawer. Which brings us back to that hot afternoon. The tired fan, the cracked mirror, and Sharon standing there with the thing in her hand like it had bitten her, begging, "Take it off, please, just for today." Beauty is not free. If you want the body, you must be willing to suffer for it. But there's something I did not tell you about that afternoon. Before Sharon reached for the strap, Tasha had already fainted once that week in the bathroom of that same flat, and she had cleaned herself up and gone to a lecture and told nobody. Her body had already sent the warning, but she ignored it once. So when she hit that floor, it was not the first time, it was the second. And the second time is never the one your body forgives. The worst part was not the fall, it was the silence after it, the kind where you call somebody's name and the room does not answer. Sharon did not remember running down the stairs, or the neighbor who helped her carry Tasha into a taxi, or how many times she said, "Please drive fast," into the back of that man's headrest. She remembered the doors of the emergency unit opening. And she remembered a nurse in purple scrubs, tall, calm, copper auburn hair packed up in a ponytail, who did not shout, did not panic, just put 2 fingers on Tasha's neck and started giving instructions in a voice so steady that Sharon's own heartbeat slowed down from hearing it. That was Nurse Osas. They resuscitated her. Sharon sat on a plastic chair in that corridor for 2 hours and 40 minutes, praying, bargaining, making promises to God she fully intended to keep. When the doctor came out, he was not smiling. "Are you her family?" "I am her friend. Her family is not here." He looked at her a moment, then decided she was close enough. "Your friend collapsed because her body has been under pressure for years. Constant compression around the abdomen together with very poor feeding strains the breathing, the digestion, the circulation. The body manages it, and then one day it simply stops managing it. Is she going to be okay?" "Yes, but hear me clearly." He removed his glasses. "If she continues like this, the next one may not end the way this one ended. This is not a fashion conversation, it is a medical one. She must stop." Sharon nodded so hard her neck hurt. She was so relieved. She thought the hard part was over. She had no idea the hard part had not started. Tasha was discharged after 3 days. On the 4th day, Sharon walked into the sitting room and found her in front of the mirror with the bottom drawer open. "Tasha, I am only trying it on." The doctor said a lot of things. Tasha did not turn around. The doctor is not the one walking onto that stage in November. You almost died. I did not die. That is not the flex you think it is. Tasha turned then, and her face had something in it Sharon had never seen. Not anger, something closer to fear wearing anger's clothes. "You do not understand," she said quietly. "You have a family that can send you money when things are hard. If I lose this, Sharon, I lose everything. Everything I have, I built with this." And Sharon, who did not know what she was standing on top of, said the wrong thing. "Sharon, your family owns a construction company." The silence that followed was 3 seconds long. Then Tasha laughed, picked up her phone, walked into her room and closed the door. And for the first time in 3 years, a very small question sat down at the back of Sharon's mind and refused to leave. Now, every campus has a Precious. Precious was the other girl on that ambassador shortlist, and she had been watching Tasha for 2 years with the patience of a woman who is certain something does not add up and is waiting for the arithmetic to fail. That week, she found a girl from Tasha's secondary school, and that girl remembered everything. The junction, the akara, the sports day. Precious did not post it. That is the thing about people like Precious. They don't want to expose you. They want you to know that they can. So she walked up to Tasha outside the faculty building in front of about 15 people and said sweetly, "Tasha, how is your mother? Is she still selling at the junction?" The blood left Tasha's face. She recovered in maybe 2 seconds, laughed, said something about Precious being confused and walked away. But Sharon was standing right there. Sharon saw the 2 seconds and she saw where Tasha went afterwards. Not to class, into the toilets, and she stayed in there a very long time. That night, Tasha did not eat at all, and she wore the thing to sleep in a way that made Sharon stand outside her door with her hand raised, unable to knock. Comment your location down below because I want to know where in the world you are watching from, and answer this for me while the story is running. Would you have knocked on that door? Because what Sharon did next is the reason people are still arguing about this story.
Sharon did not knock. Instead, on Saturday morning, she took a bus for 3 hours to a town she had heard mentioned exactly once in second year when Tasha was half asleep. She had no address, she had a school name and a photograph. It took her most of the day. She asked at a church, she asked at a chemist. Finally, an old woman selling oranges looked at the photograph, smiled with recognition, and pointed down a red dirt road. Mama Natasha, second compound, Green Gate. Every step down that road made Sharon's heart heavier. The compound was small and swept very clean. There was a woman in the yard turning something in a wide black pot over a fire, and when she straightened up, Sharon knew immediately because it was Tasha's face, 30 years further along, carrying all the tiredness Tasha had been hiding. Good afternoon, ma. My name is Sharon. I am Natasha's friend from school. The woman's hands went straight to her chest. Natasha, my Natasha, is she all right? And then before Sharon could answer, she was already pulling out a bench, already saying, sit, my daughter. Let me get you water. You have traveled far. She brought water, she brought food nobody in that compound could afford to give away. And she said with a pride that broke her heart, that girl is doing well in that school. Sometimes she sends money. We do not know how she manages it. Sharon looked around, the 2 rooms, the bench, the pot, and all at once she understood everything. The confidence, the drawer. If I lose this, I lose everything, every single piece of it. And then Sharon did something out of love, which was also the most damaging thing she could have done. She told them the fainting, the hospital, the doctor's warning, the drawer. Tasha's mother sat down slowly on the step and started to cry. And her father came out and stood behind her wife with his hand on her shoulder, and he said one sentence, "Take us to her." Monday afternoon, Faculty of Arts car park, between lectures, so the whole place was full. Tasha came out of the building laughing with 2 other girls, and then she stopped walking. Because standing near the gate, holding a plastic bag in his best shirt was her father, and beside him in the wrapper kept for church was her mother. Everything went very quiet in Tasha's head. Understand what was happening inside her. It was not that she was ashamed of them. She loved them. She was the one sending money home. But 3 years of Abuja and Dubai and the uncle in oil and gas, 3 years of a wall built with her own 2 hands, and here it was, cracking, in public, in front of everybody. Natasha, her mother said, and started walking towards her with her arms open. And Tasha stepped back. She stepped back from her own mother. Then she saw Sharon at the edge of the car park, and she knew. Tasha crossed that car park and stood in front of her and said in a voice that shook, "You went to my village, you went behind my back to my parents and told them my business? Sharon, I was trying to save your life. Nobody asked me to save my life." It came out too loud. Heads turned. Phones came up. "Do you have any idea what you have just done to me? You were dying, Tasha. I would rather die." The words hung there in the sun. Her mother, who had heard all of it, stopped walking. Her father put the plastic bag down on the ground very gently, like a man setting down something that had become too heavy. Tasha turned and walked away fast, past the crowd, past her parents, past everybody, and Sharon called her name 3 times and she did not stop. The second collapse happened 40 minutes later in the stairwell of the faculty building alone. A first-year student found her. This time it was worse. This time Sharon and both her parents sat in a hospital while machines did work that Tasha's own body had stopped being able to do, and nobody said anything at all because there was nothing to say. It was Nurse Osas who came out at 11 that night. She sat down on the bench beside Tasha's mother and took her hand. "She is stable," she said. "Her body has taken a lot, but she is stable and she's going to recover." Tasha's mother started shaking. "Ma, hear me. Whatever is happening with your daughter did not start in that hostel. Things like this always start much earlier, and they always start somewhere quiet." Tasha woke the next morning to find a nurse in purple scrubs beside her bed with a chart she was not reading. "Good morning," Nurse Osas said. "You have been asleep a long time." Tasha turned her face to the wall. "You do not have to talk. I will talk, and if I say something wrong, you can correct me." Silence. "You are not here because of a waist trainer. That is what everybody outside is saying, but it is not why you are here. An object has no power. People give it power. So let me ask you a different question." She leaned forward. "What are you afraid of will happen if people see you as you actually are?" Tasha did not answer. "How old were you?" And that was the question that broke it. Because Tasha had never once in 7 years said it out loud. And she said it now to a woman she had known for 90 seconds, in a voice so small it barely made it across the room.
"How old were you?"
14, she said. There was a sports
14.
day. And she told her all of it. The fence, the waving, the 2-second joke, walking the other way. By the time she finished, she was crying so hard the machines were complaining. When it was quiet again, Nurse Osas said this. "So a girl said something for 2 seconds when you were 14 and you have been paying rent on it for 7 years. That is what shame does. It charges you every single day for a room you don't even live in anymore." She stood and adjusted the drip. "Your mother is outside. She has been outside since yesterday. She has not eaten. She keeps asking me whether you have eaten." Tasha closed her eyes.
You did not step back from her because you are wicked. You stepped back because you have spent 7 years believing that the true version of you is not enough for a public place. Somebody sold you that. It was a lie and you paid for it with your body. Nurse Osas found Sharon in the corridor with her eyes red. You are the friend. I am the friend who did this. Sit down. Sharon sat. You went to her parents. Why? Because I had tried everything else. Because I could not watch her die. Nurse Osas nodded slowly. Then hear 2 things. They are both true at the same time and you must carry both. The first is that you saved her life. If her parents were not here, if she had collapsed in that stairwell with nobody knowing anything, I do not want to describe how that day would have ended. The second is that you took the only thing she had left, which was control over her own story. Do not tell yourself the good intention cancels the harm. It does not. Both stay on the table. Sharon wiped her face. So what was I supposed to do? Tell her first, not ask her permission. Tell her, Tasha, I am frightened for you, and if you do not go back to that doctor, I am going to call your family because I cannot watch this. Then she gets to be a person who was warned instead of a person who was reported. She rested a hand on Sharon's shoulder. You cannot force healing on somebody. You can only refuse to lie to them while they find it. Sometimes people need compassion more than correction, and correction without compassion feels exactly like an attack, even when it is love. Recovery was not a moment. Recovery was months. There was medical follow-up and there was counseling, which Tasha resisted for 4 sessions and stopped resisting in the faith when she was asked to describe herself without mentioning her parents and could not finish 1 sentence. Her mother stayed 11 days, and on the 3rd of them, sitting on the edge of the hospital bed, she said the thing that finally took the weight of her daughter's chest. Natasha, that day at your school with the fence. Tasha froze. You think I did not see you? I saw you turn and walk away.
I saw you turn.
Tasha started to cry.
I was not angry.
I was not angry. I went home and I cried, but I was not angry because I know what those children were laughing at. It was not you. It was me. She took her daughter's hands. I have fried akara at that junction since before you were born, and I am not ashamed of one single morning of it because that oil paid your school fees. You did not come from nothing. You came from something people simply did not know how to respect. She held her daughter's face. So please, do not kill yourself trying to look like it did not raise you. Tasha did not become a different person overnight. Nobody does. But she withdrew from the pageant, which cost her the money and cost her the crowd. And the crowd turned out to never have been hers. Because when the story went around that campus, more than half of the people who had been eating her food stopped taking her calls. Precious got the ambassadorship and then, to everyone's surprise, sent one message. I did not know. I am sorry. Tasha kept it for a long time. Sharon stayed. Sharon was the only one who stayed. They had it out properly 3 weeks later, in that same flat, in front of that same cracked mirror. I am sorry I went behind your back, Sharon said. I should have told you to your face. I am sorry I made you have to. Tasha looked at her hands. You were the only person in 3 years who was actually my friend, and I lied to you every single day, and then I got angry when the light fell down. I told everybody a story about a family that does not exist, while my mother was frying akara at 4 in the morning to send me money. That is what I'm ashamed of, not the compound. That. They cleaned out the bottom drawer that evening, all of it into one bag, and Sharon took it to the bin. And neither of them said anything dramatic, because real endings are usually very quiet. In her final year, Tasha stood in front of a hall of first-year students at orientation. My name is Natasha. My father repairs generators. My mother sells akara at a junction. I spent 3 years in this school pretending to be somebody else, and it nearly killed me. So let me save one of you the trouble. Her mother was in the 3rd row. This time, nobody was hiding from anybody. Now listen carefully, because this story leaves us with things worth keeping. Number 1, a lie is not free accommodation. You will pay rent on it every single day, and the currency is your peace. Tasha did not lose her health to a waist trainer. She lost it to the cost of maintaining a story. Number 2, shame delayed is shame multiplied. 2 seconds of laughter at 14 became 7 years of self-destruction because it was never spoken. What you refuse to say out loud does not disappear. It goes underground and grows roots. Number 3, never let anybody, an influencer, a friend, a stranger on the internet, convince you that your body is a problem to be solved. It is not a project. It is the only house you will ever live in. Number 4, love without honesty is not protection. The kindest thing you can do for somebody you love is tell them the truth to their face early, before other people have to tell it for you. Number 5, never be ashamed of the hands that fed you. The mother at the junction, the father at the roadside, the parent in the market. Those people are not your embarrassment. They are your foundation. And a house that is ashamed of its foundation will not stand. And the last one, you do not need to be impressive to be loved. You only need to be known. Everybody who came for the story left when the story ended. The one who stayed was the one who had been reaching for the real person all day long. So, Tell me in the comments, was Sharon right to bring those parents to campus, or should she have waited? I have my own opinion, but I want yours first, because people are seriously divided on this one. And if any part of this story touched something in you, type I can relate and tell me where in the world you are watching from, because I read every one of these. If you are not yet subscribed, do it now and turn on the notification bell, because we are pushing towards a big milestone and I want you here when we reach it. And do not go anywhere yet. There's another story waiting on your screen right now about a girl who thought she was hiding something much smaller than this, and what her own best friend discovered will stay with you. Tap it. I will see you there. This story is a work of fiction. If anything in it sounds like your own life, please speak to a doctor or a qualified counselor. There is no shame in it, and it's a lot easier than carrying it alone.